Start the clock.
Buckle up, Britain. This is why we need more migrants in the country. Britain has an ageing population, a declining fertility rate, and we have the highest taxes that anyone of working age has ever known. The truth is that we don't have enough workers in this country. There aren't even enough people to look after the health and social care of our elderly. But not one politician in this country will say the bleeding obvious. We need more workers, and that means more immigrants. The birth rate in this country is expected to fall to just 1.45. It would have to be over 2 to maintain the current amount of population. And a third of people born today will see their 100th birthday. The truth is, immigrants contribute more than the average British-born person by £2,300 a year. If we're going to pay for pensions, if we're going to pay for public services, we need more workers to fill the 2.6 million vacancies that we're going to have in this economy by 2030. And that is why Britain should open the borders. But what do you think? I'm sure you all agree.
Silence.
Alex, you obviously were a Brexit Party MEP and immigration was a big question there. What do you make of this?
Look, it's about controlling our immigration, not stopping immigration altogether. And you do make valid points about needing migrants to come in and fill positions in vital sectors, such as the NHS, such as in fruit picking. But you just have to look at the statistics from the OBR quite recently on the projected rates of immigration, which is now going to be around 250,000 per year. You're talking about adding 1 million people to the population every 4 years. And what the OBR found is the rate of work, the rate of output in the incoming population is no different from the domestic population. So, yes, you might have more workers, but you also still have more mouths to feed around the table, more pressure on the NHS, more pressure on infrastructure, more pressure on housing. I mean, we don't have enough houses in this country. It's our generation that suffers from that. It's very clear that a lot of public services are under huge amounts of strain. We live in backlog Britain. And so you cannot just have unfettered immigration. You need to have sector by sector proper controls and a points-based system that works. The one we've got at the moment is defunct. It's useless. It hasn't done anything to stem the tide of people coming into the country. We need the right sort of workers with the right sort of qualifications, and we do need a cap so we can plan infrastructure.
But, I mean, look, I think it's clear that there are lots of sectors where there aren't enough workers. So you talk about the health and social care sector, which is one of the lowest paid and one of the toughest jobs. You know, the people that do that are just remarkable people, and they often do it for the most brilliant reasons. But how is it justifiable if you don't want many more migrants? Why do you say to someone's nan and granddad, oh, you can't get the health care that you need
I'm not saying that,
because there's no one in the country?
What I'm saying is you do need, where we have huge gaps in our labour market that need to be plugged, then absolutely we take talented people, people with the requisite skills from other parts of the world. But what we have at the moment is an immigration system that is allowing way too many people in that aren't contributing to the economy in the way that people argue that migrants can contribute to the economy, and instead of putting a huge strain on our public services. So what you need is a degree of discernment about this. You need to be able to differentiate between people who are going to come in and add to the economy and those people who are going to, frankly, be a drain on it. And there's another factor that people don't like talking about when it comes to immigration, and that is social integration as well. And the more you have communities that become balkanised, that become sort of polarised and live in their own sort of little streets and neighbourhoods and don't mix with the rest of the population, it puts huge strains on societies. You just have to go to some coastal communities and see how much their high streets have changed. And then you suddenly realise that this is a huge impact.
Albie, what do you think about that? Is it a problem of trying to get people from different backgrounds to integrate?
Look, I think over the years since we've had mass migration into the United Kingdom, there are some communities who have integrated much better than other communities. If I think about my grandparents who came over from West Africa, Ghana, in fact, and a lot of the Commonwealth migrants who came over in the 50s and 60s, I think people would probably argue that they were quite well integrated. But, of course, despite that, at the time, people were very anti them coming over as well, and they, of course, were coming to fill the jobs that we needed to be filled at the time. So there's always this issue, this disconnect between the jobs that we need filling in the United Kingdom and the jobs that the native population are willing to do. And it seems at the moment, for the past 40, 50 years, the way that we plug that is through immigration. I think actually what we need to do is encourage the native population to have more children so that we can actually fill these jobs with the native-born population. That's a long-term strategy, though. Immigration in the short term.
And I was going to put that to you, Darren, because Jacob Rees-Mogg...
Well, good luck if you ask me to have children.
But, you'll find a wife eventually, Alan. But, Jacob Rees-Mogg of this parish put this argument argument on his programme recently that we need a pro-natal approach. We need people to have more kids. But I bet Jacob Rees-Mogg would oppose having mass immigration. So tell me, how do you square that? Because we need more people, and you're not going to get kids at 18 straight away. That takes 2 decades.
I think other countries do it much better than we do in actually encouraging people to get married and actually stay together and have children. We have a terrible system in this country, which I think we should actually encourage it through the tax system even. But I think many viewers, though, Benjamin, will be watching and saying, we had 500,000 people come here last year. It's predicted that 80,000 people are going to come over in those small boats, Tom, Dick or Harry. And it primarily is Tom, Dick or Harry, because it's young men coming over. And they're saying, what world are you living in which there isn't already mass migration to this country?
I mean, we know that the number of immigrants isn't enough, because that's why so many sectors can't keep going. You go around this country and you will see pubs and bars and restaurants across this country have adverts in the window, we need more staff. You try to get a booking for a supermarket or to go in and see the shelves being stacked, they say we need more staff.
So you're basically...
Let me finish, because I'm sorry, but when you sit there and you say that we shouldn't have more immigrants, what you're saying to those British businesses is you can't grow, you can't sell those products because there's no one to do the job.
What you're saying to the British people, the working class, is that their wages don't matter and the depression of their wages are irrelevant to you because you want people in coffee shops.
But do you know why those companies, one of the reasons they're finding it hard to recruit people is because they're offering wages that are below par, that people can barely live on. And one of the reasons why is because housing and the rental market is just absolutely ridiculous. London, for example, I don't understand how someone on minimum wage working in a pub or in a supermarket or wherever can actually afford to live. And yes, you can get migrants from abroad who may all live, you know, in one tiny one-bedroom flat, 6 of them or whatever, for a couple of years, and then they go back home or whatever. But that's not really sustainable, and we need British people to be working in these jobs. So we need to come up with a more, you know, a more sustainable economy where not every year you're just encouraging hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people to come to fill those gaps. You just think, oh, migrants can take those
We shouldn't
jobs.
have an immigration cap, as far as I'm concerned. We should have immigration targets to try and get as many people here as possible. But there is another angle to that.
Where are they going to live, Benjamin?
Well, what I was going to say is that one problem we have with migrant money is the super rich Russians, Chinese, foreign billionaires who buy big glass towers, put them in places like central London, but no one actually lives in those homes. We need to stop that.
Well, on that note, that is all we've got time for on that one.